Africa, there is a quest for a better society, a quest for good governance, a quest for economic development, a quest on how to bring out our people from poverty. After a careful study of this quest, I've come to the realization that there are certain things that we need to do in Africa in order for us to develop, in order for us to bring our people out from poverty, in order for us to have a good society. And there are also some certain things that we ought not to do, that we need actually put an end to it if we really want to develop as African people. Let me point out those things that we need to do for us to develop. In terms of natural resources, God has actually blessed us. We are so much blessed with natural resources and human resources in Africa. But the problem we have with our resources is that we export our resources from the raw stage. And it is clear that no country continue exporting her resources, more especially in the 21st century, at the raw stage that will actually create wealth for our citizens. For instance, for us in Nigeria, we produce crude, and it is not a new thing that there is no functioning oil refinery in Nigeria. So the multinationals that extract this crude, they took it from the raw stage, take it abroad, process it to different byproducts, they bring it back. We are disadvantaged. For countries like Cameroon, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and even Gabon, they produce cocoa, and countries like Ethiopia, Mozambique, Botswana, and Uganda, they produce coffee, and even Tanzania. And this coffee is being taken at its raw stage down to Western countries, and even to the Chinese. Produce it, process it into different byproducts, and bring it back to us, and in turn we remain poor countries. So for us to solve this problem, we must begin to add value to our resources here at home. If we want to create wealth and employment for our people, if we want to increase the per capita income, African states must learn on how to begin to add value to our resources here at home. If foreign investors want to come in and invest in our economy, they should build the factories here. If you're producing cocoa, produce the cocoa here, process it here, add value to it here, produce the brown, then from here you can export it. If you're processing coffee or whatever, let us process it at home. By adding value to our resources locally, it will boost our economy. And the next thing that for us in Africa we must do to drive development, I don't miss word on this, is stable power. I tell people that in the 21st century and in a digital economy, you can't create wealth without stable power. For us in Nigeria, it's not a new thing. There is no stable power. And until we stabilize power, that is when the SMEs, the small medium-term enterprises can grow. That is when infant industries can actually make savings. So we must stabilize power. These are the things that we must do. And I tell people another thing that is actually that we must do in Africa is that we must stop this double taxation. Of course, you know that per capita income in Africa is very low. And add it with double taxation that we have in the continent, especially for us in Nigeria, it will affect savings. And in any country that savings is low, investment will be low. So we must try as much as possible to stop double taxation. These are the things that we must do. And things that we must not do in Africa for us to achieve development. I've always mentioned this and I'm very optimistic. We must try as much as possible in Africa to cut borrowing. African countries borrow so much from IMF and they borrow so much from World Bank. I tell people, when you look at the World Bank and the IMF, those that have 75% of share in these high financial institutions and the Westerners, and I will make this very clear, the Westerners have two concepts or ideology or two theories against Africa. The theory of dependency and the theory of comparative advantage. That's why when you see when African countries take loan from the Western banks or Western countries or from IMF and World Bank, they give them condition. And most times these loans, they come with what I call double-digit interest rate. And in turn, it causes poverty in Africa. So if African country wants to develop, we must stop taking loan from financial institutions from abroad. We must learn how to manage the resources at our disposal. And I tell people that African states must think outside the box. We must think outside the box to diversify our wealth, to diversify our economy. And the next thing that we must do in Africa, if we must develop, the youth must be engaged, not just in political affairs, not just in governance, but in every phase of every strata of our society. The youth must be carried along. I just say, let me bring these little tips to our notice. Thank you so much.